Hey there folks, welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies. We're entering the month of June, and we are in the thick of the summer movie season, and we have movies this weekend that don't quite necessarily have the same impact as Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but they're notable movies nonetheless. We have 6 movies to look at today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. Hulk Hogan in his first leading film role, and that is No Holds Barred. So it's basically just like every other WWE wrestling match. I mean, that's pretty much the best way to describe this movie. This is pretty much the WWF at the time. I know WWE, WWF, pretty much the same thing, but yeah, this is pretty much just a WWF matchup blown up for the big screen. And not even a good one. This movie's just really confusing. The movie has an R rating, which means that you have to be 17 and have a parent or guardian with you to see this movie. But it's directly aiming for the teenagers, like the 13-year-olds are going to want to see this movie, and I don't know, it just doesn't work. Let's face it, it's been pretty much confirmed that wrestling is rigged. I mean, it is scripted, it's rigged, it's pretty much that, but at least watching a wrestling match on TV is fun. This is not. I mean, it's just pandering. It's like trying to find ways to entertain these people that love what they love this so much. It's like when you watch a big screen adaptation of a TV series in theaters. Like, why pay for it why pay for something on the big screen when you can watch it for free, unless the movie is actually good? And this just isn't it, man. And I mean, Hulk Hogan's not a bad actor. I mean, I think he can play a good actor. He was good at Rocky 3. He didn't really have much to do, but at least he was decent in Rocky 3. But this was just like, I don't get it, man. I just don't get what the concept was here. I don't know what they were trying to go with here. I don't know if they were trying to be like a blend of Rocky and the Karate Kid or something like that, but I don't know. It just wasn't there. It just wasn't there for me, and I feel like this movie really it wasn't a big hit, but it wasn't a big box office bomb. It only cost like $8 million to make, and they made double that back. So I don't know. It just doesn't leave much of an impact with me. I really forgot about it a lot when I saw it a few years ago. So that's just my completely on the cusp thoughts on No Holds Barred. So that's my thoughts on that. Let's go on to the next movie, which is Kiefer Sutherland and Lou Diamond Phillips in Renegades. Well, let's just call it what it really is. Die at 48 hours. I mean, this is pretty much just 48 hours, even using the same theme song from 48 Hours, The Boys Are Back in Town. But sadly, it's not 48 hours. It's not even Lethal Weapon. I mean, we had Lethal Weapon 2 years after this movie came out. And this concept it only works if you get the right people to star in it and the right script for it. I mean, Kiefer Sutherland and Lou Diamond Phillips are great actors, but even they couldn't save this movie from total disaster. It's just not an enjoyable movie. I mean, Lethal Weapon kind of changed the whole concept of an action buddy comedy, and we had Midnight Run the year before, which did this a whole lot, which did the 48 hours concept a lot better too. But this is just like, okay, let's have the most generic script we can find for this, and it just doesn't work. And it feels like they're trying to be offensive to make a point or something, is to have these like offensive stereotypes in here to try to make a point of something, but it's just not working. Like, nothing's really clicking in this movie like a good movie like 48 Hours or Lethal Weapon can do, or even Midnight Run. And not surprisingly, this is another one that people mostly forgot about, and you can kind of see why. It's pretty generic, it's not that funny, it's not that inventive, and people just forgot about it. So far we were 0 for 2 on movies that were memorable that came out this weekend. But then we have this movie that went on to become one of the biggest surprises of the year and ended up becoming a Best Picture nominee, and that is Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society. So yeah, kind of like Renegades, this pretty much has a generic plot, but unlike Renegades, there is a lot more to this movie that I do think makes it more memorable than most people give it credit for. I mean, the basic plot of this movie is just your typical coming-of-age, inspiring teacher storyline, but, I mean, there are things about it that kind of make it stand out more, like, for in particular, Robin Williams' performance in here. It's a good performance. I don't think it's his best performance. I don't think it's a performance that was worthy of an Academy Award nomination, like Good Morning Vietnam, which was the last movie he was nominated for before this movie. That was a much better movie that showed him giving a performance, but this is just him. It's Robin Williams basically just doing shtick, but he can get past it because he's doing the inspirational teacher thing, and it's just like, I mean, okay, there's nothing wrong with this movie at all. It's a perfectly serviceable movie. I think it really is a solidly made film. I don't think it's just one of those movies that deserved all the praise and all the hype it got. I mean, this was, like I said, this was a movie that was nominated for Best Picture that year, in a year where another very generic film, Driving Miss Daisy, ends up winning the Best Picture. Meanwhile, innovative films like Do the Right Thing, or even something like Batman, gets completely snubbed in the Best Picture category. But yet this movie does, because it is pretty much just an Oscar bait movie. But like I said, it's not a bad one either. I don't hate this movie. I like it. I don't love it. Like, I like Robin Williams a lot in this movie. I think he does carry the film. I think these performances carry the film. But it is a very generic script. Like, it's very the run-of-the-mill inspirational teacher tries to change the school around type of storyline. And it's been done much worse in other Robin Williams movies. Wait until we get to Patch Adams in about 9 years from now. But, so overall, yeah, I like Dead Poets Society. I don't love it. I think Robin Williams is probably the best thing about this movie, and it's open and limited release this particular weekend, but went on to become one of the biggest hits of the year, and went on to become nominated for several Oscars. Won a best screenplay Oscar for Tom Schulman, who wrote the script for this, which I guess mission accomplished. You won the Oscar, even though this is pretty much just a been there, done that storyline, but that's just my take on Dead Poets Society. Let's move on to the next movie, Nicolas Cage in Vampire's Kiss. Ah, yes, the movie that launched a number of Nicolas Cage You Don't Say memes, along with some other memes as well. God, this is a fun movie. This is a stupid, over-the-top movie, but I love it. This is just what I expect from a movie from the 1980s. Just so ridiculous, so silly, so over the top. You can't help but love it. It's so ridiculous. It gets so crazy. Nicolas Cage giving one of his most chaotic performances of his career. Jennifer Beals looking pretty good, and was acting pretty good in this movie too. I like a lot of Jennifer Beals movies, honestly, the more I think about it. You also have Maria Conchita Alonso, Elizabeth Ashley, and just this premise alone is just so insane, so ridiculous. And, yeah, it's just a ton of fun. Like, I could go on and on about how ridiculous and insane the levels and layers that this movie keeps building on. It's so crazy and it's so ridiculous. If you haven't seen it already, you gotta check it out. If you like insane Nicolas Cage at its finest, you gotta see Vampire's Kiss. It's a terrific movie. And hopefully the next movie will be just as chaotic with the title that it has, Scenes from the Class Struggle of Beverly Hills. Yeah, not so much. I mean, this is a black comedy. It stars Wallace Shawn, Jacqueline Bisset, Ray Sharkey, Ed Begley Jr., Paul Mazursky, Rebecca Schaefer's in this. That trailer really doesn't sell this movie too well. I honestly haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it, but it's, I mean, it doesn't really look all that promising to me. It's one of those trailers that I think it's trying to sell you more on something that it probably is. Like How I Got Into College, like it's having a hard time trying to market itself. Like who is this movie trying to market to? I mean, watching the trailer for this, I really couldn't tell what they were going for here. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of movie this is. I haven't seen it. I can't really comment too much on it, so there you go. That's my quick thoughts on that one. It doesn't really look all that promising to me, so I probably won't check it out anytime soon. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, which is Drew Barrymore in Far From Home. Yeah, we're almost done with the 80s. Let's go for some exploitation, even though the person that we're exploiting is a 14-year-old girl. Yeah, Drew Barrymore was only 14 years old when this movie came out, so yeah, very icky movie indeed. Far From Home with Matt Frewer and Drew Barrymore, and I can't really comment on it because I haven't seen it before, but those facts that this was made when Drew Barrymore was still a pre-teenager, and you see in the trailer she's in these skimpy clothes and all that. It's just, I mean, what am I supposed to get out of that? What am I supposed to get out of that? Is how am I supposed to enjoy a movie like this? You really can't. There's really nothing about this movie to enjoy. It's like, because this is back in the 80s. This is back when horror films had to be very exploitive to women and all that kind of stuff, which, I mean, we kind of still do that nowadays, but it wasn't anywhere near as bad as it was back then. I mean, you've seen Cisco and Eva do shows about the exploitation of women in horror movies and how generic most of the horror movies at the time were, but yeah, there's nothing about this movie that looks interesting at all. Like, why do I feel like I need to be entertained by what's going on in this movie here? It doesn't look that good. It looks very ugly in a number of ways. Who really would get enjoyment out of this movie? I mean, this isn't even like, and nothing against Drew Barrymore. I think she's obviously she's a very good actress, but, and I've seen her, and even before this movie came out, there were movies after E.T. where she was very good in, Irreconcilable Differences, Firestarter. But this just feels like, yeah, this just doesn't feel like this doesn't feel like a good career move for her. I mean, this also came out around the time she wrote that book about her addiction to, or battles with addiction, Little Girl Lost, which, like I said, the book of that came out around the same time, so that probably wasn't helping any favors with this movie. But, yeah, that's Far From Home for you. It's a very icky-looking movie that I probably will not see anytime soon, so there you go. That's my thoughts on that one, Far From Home. They needed Spider-Man to come in and probably save this movie. Even then, he probably couldn't save it. And with that said, we're going to wrap up another week of Time About the Movies. Next week, we've got one movie to look at. Doesn't have quite the same power as Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade does, but you'll still get a full review for it. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. That's going to be on the next time we do this. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more episodes of this show in particular, or some of the other videos here, go ahead and check out the playlist on the next page, and then check out a link to the previous episode and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. I'll see you guys for the next episode tomorrow, so thank you guys for watching, and until the next time I see you, take care.